Good news everyone! Some huge new features have been added into the VRoid Expression Pack. This includes custom animation, combining multiple blend shapes into one blend shape, and replacing the basic VRoid expressions with your own version. This has been a long development process, so make sure you stick around until the end so you can use these new features to their maximum potential. But first, if this is your first time finding this tool, VRoid Expression Pack is a Unity plugin I made that gives you a lot of customizable expressions to add to your VRoid model in just a few clicks. No Unity experience needed. You can get this from my Ko-fi page, which comes in two variants, the free version and the pro version. The pro version has more expressions and more flexible features added. To install this, download the Unity template project zip file, extract it, and open it using Unity Hub. Then download the Unity package file and import it into Unity. From then on, just import your VRoid model into Unity, and then open the expression pack from the menu, drag in your VRoid model, and go through each page one by one. If you're not sure what each page does, just click on the help button on the top right and it will bring you to the specific part of my tutorial video where I explain that page in detail. Once you're done, in the hierarchy window, just click on your model and choose VSF SDK menu, Export Avatar Bundle. This will save your model as a VSF avatar file, which can be opened in either VSeeFace or VNyan. But let me know if you guys want me to support other VTubing applications later in the future. Now, for the changes in this version, starting with page 1. There are two new options added, guide message and Gamedev usage. One of the most common problems in my comment section is asking why the pupil is missing in VSeeFace and VNyan. I did explain this in the previous expression pack video, but a lot of people seem to miss that thanks to the YouTube algorithm. So in this version, if you tick the guide message, this will add a text box reminding you to activate two blend shapes every time you start your VTubing application, initialize and start animation. Initialize will fix the missing pupil, and start animation will start the looping animation for various expressions, including the new days expression. If you didn't activate start animation, the star won't spin at all. Gamedev usage is made for fellow Unity developers who want to use their VRoid models in their games. If you tick this option, your model will include a component called Display Blend Shape List. If you enter play mode, this component will display all the different expressions you have chosen for your model. For Unity developers, these buttons are just calling different triggers in the animator. Feel free to peruse the animator parameters and layers to learn how to use these animations in your game, like making cutscenes. This is also quite useful for VTubers who want to test their VRoid model before exporting it from Unity as a VSF avatar file. Just don't forget to remove this component before exporting it, otherwise it will give you an error message. Moving on to page 5, there is a new setting called Animation Options. If you tick any of these options, it will add that animation to this expression. Spinning will give you a spinning animation. The rotation speed controls how fast each rotation should be. Pulsing will give you a pulsing animation. The pulse count determines how fast each pulse should be, while the scale determines how big each pulse enlarges the image. And yes, you can combine both spinning and pulsing together at the same time. The only caveat is that you can't preview how the animation will look right away in this version, so you may have to do a back and forth testing. To do this back and forth testing, first put in the numbers you want to test into any field, and then just go through all the pages. Ignore every detail. If you don't change anything in the next pages, everything will stay at default until you're ready to configure them. Once you're done, just go to play mode and test the expression. If you don't like it, end play mode, put the model back into the expression pack, and return to where you were. All of your previous configurations are safe the moment you close this plugin, so you can just redo everything from the start all over again. Of course, I know that this process is tedious, so I will work on adding a way to preview animations in the future without going to play mode. I would also like to know what other animations you want to add to this page. Maybe a shaking animation? Let me know in the comment section down below. Alright, enough with the minor details. Page 7, 8, 9, and 10 are the flagship features in this version. Page 7 is the combinator, which will allow you to combine all the expression you made up to this point into different sets. First, you need to create a new preset on the bottom right and name it whatever you like. Then you can choose to mix and match different categories of expressions however you like. For example, in this super angry expression, I chose I angry, mouth frown 4, and faint marks VFX. As you can see, you don't have to use every category. But if I want to use them, I can just simply press the plus button to add them to this preset. I can also do multiple expressions in each category, as in this expression where I use 2 VFX expressions at the same time. Of course, I do realize that this amount of freedom to combine these expressions can be overwhelming, especially for someone like me who are not very talented in art. So that's why I included this recommended presets button. If you press it, this will add all possible pre-made combinations. For beginners, I do recommend you to start off with this button and then modify the expressions to better fit your model and remove those you don't want. The caveat on this page is just that you have to use your imagination to figure out how the combined expression would look like. So again, you may have to go back and forth to test it yourself. Page 8 is the blend shape remover. Once you have combined the expressions into presets, you don't really need each individual expression for mouth and eyes, right? So you can untick those expressions you don't want anymore. For convenience, you can simply use the mask selection on the bottom. I do recommend you to keep pupil alter if you use alter eyes, and of course, keep all combined expressions from the previous page. Keep in mind that you don't have to remove all uncombined expressions. You may want to have an option to trigger just one specific expression, like a blushing texture when it's not necessarily tied to one expression set. Page 9 is the blend shape renamer. So far, all of these names for every expression are rather soulless. So, what about changing their name to your own preference? Feel free to rename every expression however you like. You can simply click the Remove Prefix button to quickly remove the initial codes. If you messed up, you can simply press Set Default to reset all names back to default. And lastly, page 10 is optional, but you can choose to replace the 5 default VRoid expressions with your own preset. This means that when you activate that blend shape in your VTubing application, your custom expression will appear instead of the default ones. To do that, simply tick the expressions you want to change and choose them in the drop-down menu. And that's pretty much all the updates. Do note that page 7, 8, 9, and 10 will only be available for the Pro version of the Expression Pack. And a bit of a personal update, I'm currently facing a rough economic situation right now, as I detailed in this blog post. If you have found this plugin useful to you, please go ahead and purchase the Pro version. It's a one-time purchase and you will get any future update free of charge. More importantly, it will help me and my family deal with our current debt crisis. If you want to continue watching, I recommend you to check out this video where I show you how to animate boobs or animal ears using my plugin. Leave a like and subscribe if you want to see more videos from this channel. And with that, I think I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.